My producers and colleagues are tired of my Sinners references, but Sinners is a business movie. And this is Monday. I'm going to take you back to that quote at the beginning of the show. Jump on the work. Don't let the work jump on you. It's a highlight we're doing for the entire week, for a lot of work put into new reports. So here is Miles Canton in Sinners with that quote.
Morning, Pop.
You up all for early, son?
Like you say, jump on the work. Don't let the work jump on you.
Let the work jump on you. We have 100, let me cover my face, and 63-page report of work from Breeze and Intelpoint on international trade in select African countries. I had a wonderful time reading this report over the weekend, and we're happy to have Chimenem Nnwoka, who is the founder and CEO of Breeze, joining us to talk about trade finance in Africa. Chimenem, you're welcome. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Reuters. Thank you.
You jumped on the work. You didn't let the work jump on you. Tell us about, let me flip through this thing, about the amount of work it took for you guys to put this report. I deliberately printed out a large size. I could have printed out in A4. I don't want to make it gargantuan. But look, this thing, talk to us. How long did it take? What was the work that went in with you and Intelpoint putting this together?
Well, we've been working on this for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think about 9-10 months of work.
Yeah.
Looked at so much data. I think even before we started this with them, it took us some time to even agree on what direction we wanted to go with the report.
Yeah.
We were doing some advocacy work and been advising with some trade companies, and we felt that it was necessary that we were armed with the right data to know what to do, and also to really understand the African market properly. And we had to look at bank
data.
Bank data from any data that was available, honestly.
Yeah.
And it just took us to the point of lack of access of trusted data sources. And but yeah, we're really proud of the report. And
look, this is we're doing this all week. We're just getting there's so many. I think it's because maybe things are just gradually improving, and there's cautious optimism about Nigeria because we've just got reports after reports all week looking at different aspects. I want to start with, since we're talking about trade finance and trade in Africa, I know we're going to get to trade finance and the need to, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, the need to boost trade. What are we exporting in Africa? Let's start. I wanted to compare the actual products that are going out there. And you've got, you've got a number of countries here, but on the screen, Egypt. Arise News, I got a chance to go to Egypt for the first time. In fact, our technician is here in the studio that we went to Egypt together. We're in Sharm el-Sheikh, right? Shout out to Okweyemi. And I want you to tell me about the diversification of Egypt's exports, because for our viewers, the particular thing I want to focus on is the finished goods. And you can see that from 2025 through to, or rather 2015 through to 2023, it's been at least averaging about 40%, almost 50% in 2023. When you were gathering this, what did you make of the diversification of Egypt's exports?
I think Egypt is one of the most interesting countries that's on the report.
Yeah.
Because firstly, they're a Middle Eastern country. You're expecting it to be mostly oils, refined products, petroleum products. But then, especially with the history of the country, but then Egypt is very, very diversified. You are seeing extreme diversification across all sectors.
They make furniture.
Furniture, exactly.
They make their own furniture and export it.
You get it. They have, it's not just Egypt though. If you look at the
Morocco,
Africa, Algeria, Morocco, so they are more diversified, even though they have the oil there. I think there's also that issue of them being connected to the European market, also connected to the GCC countries as well, and the Suez Canal. But then it's a very interesting country.
All right, so we go from north, let's go south. Let's go to the south side of Africa. Also in your report, Angola. And the contrasts could not be more, where is that pie chart? Angola is, and Nigeria is a similar, look at this thing. 94% of their exports is just fuel.
Terrible.
Terrible.
Terrible. Especially
you said terrible multiple times. 94% of exports is just it's fuel. That's all they do.
And it's not refined. It's not particularly refined. So it just shows. There's a lot that has to be done on the continent with regards to production of what actually comes from the ground for us, and also diversification. Look at comparing Egypt and Angola. When you look at the issues of commodity prices going up and down and what that effect does to your economy, you probably don't want to have a 10% cut in oil prices.
Right, because you're in trouble. Let's stay south. South Africa, this one should be no surprise to anybody, the most industrialized country on the African continent. I mean, Chimenem, look at this. Platinum, gold, cars, trucks. I mean, they've got it all.
They've got it all. They have others.
Yeah, the others. And look at that 48%. Yeah, talk to us. Yeah, it's other items, right?
Other items. Yeah. So they export a lot of things, food, processed products.
Yeah.
So it just shows the diversification of the economy completely. I think also interestingly, if you look at our report, they actually have one of the most restrictive trade policies.
In terms of, that was, you see, look, this thing, it's 163 pages. I was like, okay, how many different things do we want to talk about? Because if I had focused, there was also, you guys also, everyone needs to download this thing. You also looked at the different countries, how restrictive they were in terms of import. So despite that, South Africa is still thriving in terms of their export base.
I think they've had an industrialized economy for a very long time.
Yeah.
They also have a lot of trade relations with the West, but also with the BRICS coming up as well. So they're very diversified.
Although Trump is about to flog them. Let's go to our darling Nigeria, where we are, and I mean it's a similar story to Angola. Nigeria is just, I mean, I know we have non-oil exports and we're trying to diversify, but yeah, I mean, by the way, when you were putting this together, did you start with Nigeria or how did you start? Which country did you start with?
Interesting. We actually wanted to start with just Nigeria alone.
Oh, okay.
So and then you were doing the report on letters of credit and documentary credit generally in Nigeria, and then the data in Nigeria wasn't sufficient enough to give us a full comprehensive view, and we decided to expand to other countries. But in Nigeria, it's I mean, the data speaks
for itself.
Really, there's not much difference with Angola, except maybe on the import side.
Yeah.
But I think there's Dangote refinery. There's a few other refineries that are coming up. So we would expect more of our exports to be, instead of unfinished goods, to be more processed. So LPG and so other derivatives.
You talk about the Africa, and by the way, you listed the Afrexim Bank, PAPS, that's the Payment Settlement System, Pan-African Payment Settlement System, African Development Bank. You looked at a lot of institutions, but I do want to bring up trade within Africa, because you also, in your reports, showed the regions, imports by continent, so essentially where Africa gets its items from, and it is absolutely just dominated by Asia and Europe. So my question to you is, with a lot of talk about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, trade, Africa just is, I mean, when you break it down by Nigeria, Egypt, every one of those countries, you guys broke down how much of imports they're getting from Africa. It's just dominated by Asia. Does this change with the AFCFTA? I mean, it just looks like we're so dependent on them.
I want to start with Asia.
Yeah.
So Asia is mostly just China and India.
Right. Wow.
Mostly just China and India taking up almost half of the imports of the continent.
Yeah.
And this just, I mean, there's nothing wrong with imports, nothing wrong with exports.
Right.
There's comparative advantage and absolute advantage. But then I think the worst thing there is the level of trade within Africa, 4%. That's 4%. Poor.
Yeah.
That's extremely poor. And that's what AFCFTA is coming in to solve. Now, to solve this problem, you have to have integration of policies. That's the foundation of AFCFTA.
Yeah.
Moving things like tariffs, at least it's going to be the largest continental free trade area.
Right.
And then also looking at exchanging of standards. Something else we didn't really delve deep into in the report was in trading services.
Okay.
And that's also a big, especially with a globalized economy, looking at things like AI and everything coming in, that's a big opportunity in Africa. I just said that Cape Verde is building the largest data center on the continent. Very small island, but then they're positioning themselves for trading services and trying to export that to the rest of the world.
Trade finance, you had a chart from Nexim, Nigeria's export-import bank, showing, great stuff here. Bar chart, loans and advances, which have been climbing, and then the year-on-year percentage change. I mean, there was a drop there in, I guess, between 2022, I think, and 23. But what's your assessment of growing the capacity of loans to finance trade in Nigeria?
So the thing about data is that it's really at the behest of who is interpreting it.
Yeah.
So what that chart shows there is the level, it's reducing, it's not increasing that much.
Right.
But then you're seeing the Naira value increasing.
Yeah.
There's a devaluation effect of that. It's export.
Yeah.
So devalued currencies increase the value of the local currency that they're putting in.
Yeah.
But we're not doing enough. We have a huge trade finance deficit. We need, like we said, we need to have infrastructure that brings in trust. At the end of the day, funders are looking at where they could put in their money to get returns in. Africa still remains a continent that's going to give them the yields that they're looking for. But then they're not going to put in their money where there is no trust, where they don't have access to trusted data. And this integration is what they're the foundation of building these data sources. You
have talked to us about digitization of trade, and I think you guys are working on something. Bridge, talked about, what's that? Is that an effort to digitize things and improve trade, or how's that supposed to work?
So we're building an operating system for digital trade.
Yeah.
It's called Bridge,
the
Bridge Trade Network. And what Bridge does is digitize trade documents and automates workflows. We're building this in line with global standards like MLETR and making trade interoperable. Essentially, we're putting trade documents on the blockchain, tokenizing them, and providing access to liquidity.
You're going to have to get buy-in from the countries, right? In order for, because I mean, it's great stuff. It's always good to meet young people that are building these tech platforms to improve efficiency across different sectors, and trade is absolutely vital. But are you, like, it would have been nice if you were at the Afri-Exim Bank annual meeting, which was in Abuja, where, you know, there was a whole talk of trade there. They were signing deals and so on, and trade was trade. In fact, you should see Bosun Amofaya's ad for his show, the trade stuff, which is just awesome, right? It's just right on the money. So how are you gonna get buy-in from, you know, the different, and is that the platform is, what level are we talking about here? SMEs can get in on that, or people want to get letters of credit, or country level? What's the level of buy-in that you need, or operators who will be using the platform?
Okay, so it's an operating system, in the sense that it's an operating system.
So you integrate it?
Integrating. I mean, it was meant to be invisible, so to say. But then I think more importantly is actually what the legal frameworks are, like you mentioned. So we're building on MLETR.
That's the electronic...
model law and electronic transferable records. That's it's done by United Nations. Nigeria is actually signing to it, but they haven't adopted it yet. It's still relatively new in the sense that technology, where we are in technology, it's always still nascent, especially looking at blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. So there are already frameworks. Countries have adopted it. Countries like Singapore with trade trusts, countries like Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, New York just adopted it last week, and a few other countries are working towards adopting it. South Africa is the most forward-looking country on the continent.
That's why they're where they are.
And then they just did the digital promissory note transaction last week. In terms of what we're doing to, it's advocacy. We have to advocate and let government know, policymakers know that this exists. I mean, this is what is there globally and how we could align with that. So we were actually at Afri-Exim. Oh, you were? Yeah, 2 weeks before the annual meeting. So the module law on factoring. And Afri-Exim also saw the need to develop module laws as well for factoring. And we spoke on what is needed to grow loans or grow credit or reduce the deficit in Africa. Is the hindrance on LCs, especially in Nigeria, I mean, and Nigeria too as well. Policies, partly from the Apex Bank, forces us to use LCs. And the LCs has to be completely collateralized, sometimes more than 100%. Not a lot of people have that collateral. So that also limits the ability to access capital. So being able to adopt not just digital documents, but also adopting factoring and using your trade receivables and payables as assets or as collateral for funding would increase more funding. Technology, the way, the truth, and the light. Look, fantastic report. Chimenem Nnwoka, CEO, founder of Breeze. Great work there that you and Intelpoint have done. I encourage everyone to read this report. It is highly informative on trade finance in Africa. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much.